You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hey everybody, you are listening to Phoenix 92.5 FM. This is the Wrestling Rewind. My name is Darrell O'Connor. This is show 126. And of course, if you're listening on Patreon, thank you so much. This is going to be the Heat segment, which we cut up and put up for Patreon listeners as well. But we still have to cover it on the main show because until SmackDown starts, it is single-handedly probably the most important show to watch week to week, and the rest of the show doesn't make sense without it. So this week we're going to obviously cover Heat, and then the final Raw to go home towards WrestleMania, and then quickly the Heat just before WrestleMania 15. So thank you so much for checking out. Last week's show did quite well. Actually say it's going to be 127 because it was Stone Cold Steve Austin Day. And I'm going to pop the interview I did with Stone Cold Steve Austin up as 126 from a couple of years ago, because why not? I totally forgot I did an interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I think it's a good time to put it back up on the feed. So as I said, my name is Darrell O'Connor, and I'm joined by the one, the only, the Bertie boy, the one and all undefeated, Mr. Martin Hardy. How are things, Martin?
Oh, grand. I thought you said Bertie boy there for a second, and there was some sort of reference to Ahern.
Oh no! So for listeners that may not know, Bertie Ahern was a former Taoiseach of Ireland, which is the Prime Minister of Ireland, and a quite controversial figure. But no, it was your birthday. He
was what's known as a cuteur.
Going to have to edit that one out for FM, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. So it's been busy for you because it was Patrick's Day. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin Day, Patrick's Day, and then your birthday. That's Absolutely. Some weekend. That's a lot of Steve Weisers.
Yeah. had to get the truck out with the hose.
Oh man, isn't it funny that like Raw that we're watching now has like this run just has all the like infamous moments. Just out of nowhere. It's crazy.
You know what? It's great watching them like this because you have these huge moments in your head.
Yeah.
You know, and they get played in like video packages, and you see them like, you know, separately segments on YouTube or whatever. It's brilliant to just be watching a show and just have one of these moments just kind of naturally happen.
Yeah.
And when you're watching it, you're going, "Oh, that's where that came from. That's what that is."
Well, it's really funny as well that like it happens with the Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell is you know, Corey McChrystal, former host of the Pro Wrestling Rewind and the International Desk for years. He would call the Hell in a Cell with Mankind and Undertaker the greatest lie that was ever told, and I would agree. I mean, you go back and watch the match, and it's not a very good match. But it is one of the most important matches of all time for those moments, and you kind of brought it up as well with some you know, some of the segments that we would see on a Raw or a Heat, where it's like, oh, that was kind of a meh segment, and then you go back and watch the video package and you're like, oh my god, that was incredible. So
I've been finding with the Undertaker, this has been a lot of the stuff with the Undertaker has been kind of meh, or maybe a wee bit cheesy or a wee bit cringy when it's been happening. But when it's put back together in a video package, you know, black and white with the Undertaker's music over it, and it's just the key moments of it clipped out, it's like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever.
You know, I think WWE, actually modern fans generally who hate Bray Wyatt owe him a massive apology. Because he's not the Undertaker. I'm like, he kind of is. We just, like, in modern wrestling, we just don't have a lot of things that the Attitude Era had, which is really good editing in the sense that the story is more important than the matches, because the matches don't happen. They just don't. And also, there's more of like, okay, we're going to replay this segment, and the segment is replayed rather than clips from the segment and it's pulled out. Like, I mean, that Royal Rumble train wreck with Bray Wyatt, I'm pretty sure if you clip that up in its own kind of way in a story, you could probably have a good segment in that.
Oh yeah, you could make that like in a video package. You could make that look amazing.
Yeah, it's just watching it in real life, and again, watching it like with Twitter and all that kind of stuff. It's the Attitude Era didn't have this, and I mean, I was trying to, I don't engage with people on the internet with arguments anymore. I just don't do it because there's no point. But I saw one on some wrestling page, and it was like, Roman Reigns would have never got over in the Attitude Era. Like, yeah, he would have. He would have been the top star. Are you for real? Or in ECW, God help him for never having to go to the ECW arena. It's like, why? He would have been a massive star. It's like, I just don't know what show. The show that's in their head is not what actually happened. And I mean, one of the goals that we're trying to do here on this show, or one of the goals I have, is to watch this in context. And look, I've watched more wrestling in the past like week than I have in ages. I pretty much jumped ahead. I'm on WrestleMania already, and then I was going back and watching some stuff from the hardcore division, watching a lot of Taz matches for some reason from 2001. So I mean, I'm properly like deep in here, and I'm just like, all right, there's we're trying to clear up misconceptions here, because there's a lot of shade that gets thrown unfairly, and I think whoever was editing the show back in the day, hire him. He was doing a great job. The video package guy, not the actual show, but the video package guy. Where's he gone? Bring him back. That might help.
Probably went the same way as hundreds of the other employees did the past couple of years.
Yeah, but what I mean is like the magic that was on these shows, like even on a Heat, right? And we've talked about it, and it's like the Heat before WrestleMania, it's not going to be its own show, because there's nothing happens there. But we'll get to that point. This Heat that we're talking about, the main thing is that The Rock is upset with the corporation, right? He is angry with the corporation, and it's just a long, wandering promo for about 5 minutes, and eventually the big boss man has enough. And the big boss man is like, look, I want a piece of you, or whatever. And it's funny because the big boss man is saying these really like he uses his hard time cheesy promo. And The Rock is like, what are you talking about? Like, he did it a couple of times. He did it a couple of times. And it's just The Rock is completely no selling it. And you're like, right, if this had been modern WWE, they would have made the boss man look ridiculous. But it's like, no, because The Rock was like, stop being ridiculous, I'm actually going to fight you. It actually just got them both over. And it's incredible. It's like the guys had enough freedom to really just go with it. Because, I mean, if that promo was scripted today, right? Just say it was John Moxley when he was there in WWE as Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns, which is probably a good comparison. They were overly scripted, and he had to lean into the silliness of it rather than The Rock, who's like, stop with that ridiculous saying that doesn't mean anything. I'm going to stick that nightstick up your, And
I don't know. How can you stand there and seriously say that they were overly scripted? You suffering succotash.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. Now, if they had just been like, no, listen, just go out and be relatively real, I think they both would have benefited from it. And I mean, like, this is the boss man, like my Bookly out there with The Rock.
Well, this is part of the reason why I think this era has such a kind of a charm to it. It's like you were talking earlier about how like these video packages are even better than the ones they do now. And that's mad, because now they must have like the just absolute state of the art equipment. They have more money than they know what to do with. But I think that's part of the problem, because I think what you have with WWE now is this really overproduced product, this over-polished product, and it I don't know, it's just, for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel real to me. Where in this era, they're doing some really innovative things with some fairly limited technology, but everything feels a wee bit grittier, feels a wee bit more down to earth. And at this stage, it still feels like it's a wrestling show. Like the wrestling hasn't been completely sidelined yet.
Well, see, okay, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I would say, and I mean, on this show, the wrestling, 4 minutes, 1.5 minutes, 1 minute, 2.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes. The wrestling, sorry,
this is a pretty good heat.
it is. It's a really good heat, but the wrestling isn't the focus. The story's the focus, and the wrestling feeds into the story. And I think that's what it is. Because, man, I'm the same with you. I'm like, how is a show that has less wrestling than the entrances? The entrances take 5, How is it? How is a show that has less entrances, less wrestling than the entrances, feels more like a wrestling show than a wrestling show that has 15-minute classics with guys who legitimately can go out and who are more athletic than everyone standing in that ring right now. And it's because you're sports entertained. You're like, I really want to know what happens in this story, because the story is the most important part, and the wrestling builds around it. And like, even to like Dr. Death Steve Williams, I actually care about Dr. Death Steve Williams hanging out with JR. And I mean, that's insane.
I think it's as well because this era is a really innovative era. So the stuff that we're seeing in it, when you look back and watch it in context, it can seem a wee bit different to eras now because we've seen it done 100 times. Whereas back then when it was happening, this is the first time anything like this had happened. Like in the episode of Raw, we're coming up to Stone Cold driving the truck into the arena and then blasting the ring with beer from the hose. Like, we've all seen a version of that 100 times by this stage. But imagine you're just there, like it's just a random Raw, or maybe it's week 4 WrestleMania, so not quite random, but it's just it's an episode of Raw, and then this just outlandish stunt happens. It's really it's not even so much the stories or the wrestling. It's just that the whole show is creatively just vibrant.
Just leave Raw for 1 second, because that's a whole thing. But I mean, with Heat, the driving part of Raw here, actually, and I also just noticed, I went back there and while you were talking about the segment, there's some lad holding like a phone book, and it's like falling apart, and he's in the front row. Don't know why. It's holding a phone book. And look, for Heat, The Rock's story of being this paranoid character, which we've seen over multiple weeks, starting with the big show and then going all the way through the entire corporation. That's another side of it. And then that would feed into what would happen with Austin. So this multifaceted story, basically, that has different elements that everything kind of feeds into it. Austin is feuding with The Rock, who is feuding with the entire corporation because he doesn't trust them. The Undertaker is kind of feuding with McMahon, not involved with Austin. But then Mankind is, they all kind of feed into the same story that unfolds over many chapters. And then you have DX just running around and being the best thing ever. Yeah, they're just being the best thing ever, So look, let's get into this. This Heat came from San Jose Arena in San Jose, California. It was March 21st, 1999, and it was the second last Heat before WrestleMania Sunday. So just a normal Heat before they actually got what I think they should bring back. Anyway, so it started off with the corporation coming out, The Rock again running down everybody, and it would set up a match with the Big Boss Man and The Rock. Shane McMahon losing his mind, going, I'm going to get in serious trouble about this, and would no sell the match anytime Kevin Kelly would bring it up. So that's where we are, and it would then open up with a bizarre match, but an entertaining match nevertheless. Hardcore title match with Al Snow and Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn would defeat Al Snow in 4 minutes with a Fameasser. And look, you were kind of disappointed that Billy Gunn won this belt. I agree. I you know, it is cool for DX to kind of go in with more gold, but Billy Gunn should not be a hardcore champion. He just doesn't
with that
fit.
said, this was a pretty decent match.
It was a very good match.
I would have I'm not the biggest fan of the hardcore matches from this era because it tends to be a lot of kick punch walk over here, kick punch walk over here. This is a pretty decent match. I really liked at the start Al Snow kind of just walking down to the ring and doing his entrance and then just jumping in the crowd and hiding in the crowd.
There's one thing I want to bring up on your point before you go. I'll let you go back to that point, but I just noticed. So when Bob Holly comes out for commentary, he actually makes a reference to, did you notice all the sawdust around the ring?
Yes.
Still? So this was obviously shot very soon after last week's Raw, where they built a commentary desk for JR. Kevin Kelly then has to backtrack it later on. So you listen to it about halfway through the match. He's like, "Yeah, so JR wasn't here tonight," and and then Bob Holly's like, "Oh crap, I need to walk this back." So they both walk it back at one point, and obviously I thought it was
the era. Is it of they go into an arena and they do one recorded Raw and one live Raw?
Yeah, and then they do a rake of heats.
Yeah.
So obviously he wasn't. So obviously this was taped right after that, and he had to go in and he basically revealed it. But again, I would blame the production staff because I mean that when I saw him coming out, I'm like, why is there still wood all over? Wood chippings all over the floor. I mean,
yeah,
that's the drop.
It's just a quick word, by the way. This is next week's show, so don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, I thought that was funny. Sorry. So go back to your point there with the match because I agree the match.
Yeah. So I think it's partly down to the fact that the two guys in it are great. Al Snow and Billy Gunn are sort of really good wrestlers. Al Snow obviously never got much above the mid card, but he was a really kind of inventive, he had a really good wrestling mind,
a good hand, as they say.
Exactly. Yeah. So I enjoyed this match. Thought it was a really good brawl. I call
out a good sign? Actually, it just says so.
So I thought
that's all it says. It just says suck.
it was the era for us. So I thought that this it didn't betray the kind of spirit of the hardcore title, which is all the weapons and that, but it wasn't trash cans and
it wasn't garbage wrestling. It was the most creative they got was and it's what I've kind of noticed with this when you actually get guys who know how to wrestle. I know that sounds horrible, but that's the truth.
It makes such a massive difference because like I say, I typically don't enjoy this in WCW or WWF, but I enjoyed this match. I thought the main thing they used was a chair, and I thought that actually had some really inventive uses of it.
Yeah, the chair that's in my notes as well. I was like, by them actually having a match that's helped along with the chair rather than okay, we're going to take out 16 weapons and it looks like a CCW match. It's not good.
So now I really, really enjoyed this. But as we say, this whole episode of Heat was brilliant.
It was banging. Yeah, it really was. It was it just felt like a solid B show.
It was even funny as well because even the bad bits were kind of good. Hardcore Holly's on commentary during this because he's going to be wrestling whoever the champion is at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And he's just terrible.
Oh, he's awful. Can I just say as well, Bob Holly. Sorry, Billy Gunn punches a chair. Don't never punch a chair unless you're the Big Show. That was the stupidest part of the whole match. Was that? But I loved the moonsault with the chair.
Oh, brilliant!
Such a cool setup for the end of the match. was really good, and more chair shots to the head, which was disappointing, but also incredibly satisfying. As problematic as it is, seeing a chair shot to the head, no one takes them better than Al Snow. So, it was what it was.
But no, this was great, and it's a testament to how good this heat was that we went from this match into an X-Pac hype video, and it was brilliant. It had me really up, and like I'm an X-Pac gay. I think Sean Waltman's fantastic, but this had me really getting behind X-Pac.
So before we get there, the match finished up obviously with a table spot and into a Fameasser basically.
Great table spot as well.
Really good table spot. And then Billy Gunn defended his title. Bob Holly comes in, batters everybody with a chair, and leaves. And then it goes into the X-Pac hype video. Now, the cool thing about the X-Pac hype video is, it's Tess trying to talk The Rock out of fighting Big Boss Man, and then it goes into it. And the cool thing about the hype video with X-Pac is you don't really... This is not something you see very often because, like, X-Pac obviously came back to the WWE from WCW, and he was saying, "Look, I wasn't sure they were going to welcome me back." And we kind of skipped a little bit where Shawn Michaels turned on DX basically and became corporate, and then he kind of turned back. So that was kind of happening at the end of 1998. In 1990, and then X-Pac would come back and be fully brought into the fold, and there was kind of the DX fighting. So, but to actually hear that in kind of a shoot, which this was actually very, very unique and not something I've ever had an appreciation before from X-Pac, because again, you just don't think of him that way. You think of him as, X-Pac, he go away, he, or our Patreon, the X-Pac Euro. So
we all want an X-Pac Euro.
We all need an X-Pac Euro. And if you don't know what that is, listen to last week or the show 2 weeks ago and go on our Patreon where you can find that out. But no, I mean, this made him look like $1 million. It made him look like a legitimate threat. And then also got over the fact that Shane McMahon is in a lot of trouble because this guy is actually legitimate rather than Shane, who isn't.
Although Shane has a long history of putting himself in against legitimate guys and making himself look good. I saw one of those countdown lists recently that was talking about WrestleMania matches, because obviously we're into WrestleMania season here in 2023 as well. And it was going over the match he had with AJ Styles. So AJ Styles is amazing. Even at that stage, it's amazing, legendary wrestler. And Shane's booked in a match going toe-to-toe with them.
But I mean, the thing about this is it still told a story. I mean, Shane coming back, we might actually look at that in a retrospective at some point if you guys want to. But this was an actual story. It made sense. And then, like, even going into a video package again with the Main Street Posse, where they're talking about how tough Shane is, and it's just silly because you're like, no, he's not. Like, it's just the visual of Rodney coming out and then just been like, hey, yeah, well, Shane is the toughest guy ever. He beats people up randomly for fun. It's like, no, he doesn't. This is the thing. And it just works so well. It's like has this right level of goofiness that it's just funny,
So
I don't know.
Fantastic. The Mean Street Posse is a fantastic gimmick for him.
I love it. It's
one thing I've always wondered why that was never brought back more. Because Shane would periodically return over the years. I always wonder why he didn't bring the Mean Street Posse back more, because they're brilliant.
One because like they stayed there until about 2000, and then they kind of petered out. Basically, what happened is, and this is something we're going to see if we keep going into this timeline, actual wrestlers show up and take over the mid card. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So that's why this is a very interesting period. 1999 is kind of, it's good and bad. It's like making the best of what you have out of, like, the Road Dogg challenge for the WWF Championship. The Road Dogg, right? And he had the IC belt, so that was kind of your mid card. Then what happens is WCW starts going down the tubes like really badly, and all the lads leave who can actually wrestle: Jericho, Benoit, Malenko, Perry Saturn, and they become the mid card, and that's what happens. So all the guys who may have been able to get one of those feature spots, like your Joey Abs or your Rodneys or your Picasses, they just disappear, and that's what happens. I was watching the Hardcore Battle Royale again, and Pete Gas is there, busted wide open, and they're all fighting for the hardcore belt, and I think we did a commentary track of that a couple of years ago. I'll try to dig that one out and put that up on the feed as well, because that's a good time. But yeah, I mean that's your answer, dude. Like, but I also think as well, it's a very heel gimmick, right? So having the Main Street Posse out there now would actually, you know what they should have done? Sorry. Yeah. If Shane came back as a heel figure, bring back the Mean Street Posse, and then you'd have your own Stooges kind of thing, where he's basically just being Vince with the Main Street Posse. That's a really good shout. They will never do it, but they should do it.
I think even if he was a face, though, I think you could make them kind of deluded, lovable goofballs. A wee bit like what do you call them? Cool Hand Ange and Daddy Magic in AEW.
Yeah, that could work.
They're technically heels, but they're such goofballs and they're so funny that everybody likes them.
If Shane ever goes to AEW, give the Main Street Posse a shout.
I am so torn whether I actually want that to happen or not, because it would be a good moment. Fun.
It would be great fun. Yeah, it would be a great moment. And I mean, like, if he's there with the Main Street Posse, come on, be amazing. Be amazing. And I will preface, that's the only way I want to see that happen. I just want to see him there with the Main Street Posse. So yeah, look, we have another backstage segment with The Rock getting ready for his match. Shane's like, no, this match isn't going to happen. And then out comes the former number one contender, and current Intercontinental Champion, the Road Dogg. And he's going to go against Ken Shamrock. This match lasts about 2 minutes. It's a shame, because I love Ken Shamrock. I really do. So when he's, but again, he's marred again by this this Ryan Shamrock nonsense, which is just like, oh my God, it's Ken Shamrock. His time is limited. He's going to be gone in September. And I'm like, oh, so, my heart kind of breaks a little bit. So, Shamrock was disqualified after Val Venus attacks the Road Dogg. The match itself wasn't bad, but it was about 2 minutes. And Road Dogg's little preamble was actually longer than the entire match. Some terrible haircuts as well, can I just say, in the crowd. It doesn't get more 90s than this. Bowl haircuts everywhere. So, yeah.
I like that we, in the previous match, Al Snow came out first, so Billy Gunn came out second. And in this match, Road Dogg came out first, so we had two renditions of you didn't know in a row.
But with Billy Gunn, he doesn't say anything. It's just the din.
Oh, is there not a pre-recorded one for Billy Gunn?
No, right. I only realised that a week or two ago when they actually fought.
Do you know what it is though?
What?
The crowd shouts it.
The crowd shouts it, yeah.
When it's just Billy, yeah, because you can clearly hear them saying it. So.
Yeah.
But you got that song twice in a row.
Yeah, but like, I can't remember if it's on This Raw or I was randomly watching it. No, I think it is. Yeah, it's on the Raw we're going to talk about. They actually go against each other, and that's where I figured it out. Because it's a double championship match, but not actually for any championship.
I watched these, the Heat and the Raw back to back.
Right.
I think there's maybe another segment where one of them's in it, but basically, when I sat and watched them, there's like 4 or 5 times where I'd heard that song, and it was starting to feel like. Do you remember? Was it one Halloween Havoc that the NWO took over?
No, it was sold out.
Sold out. That's what it was. Yeah. And every match was NWO, and they all have the same goddamn entrance song.
But you know what's crazy though? It's like DX. I'm a much bigger fan of DX after doing this run than I was. Like, I always liked DX, but I'm like, no, they were really, really cool. They were really cool. But again, like, fair play to them. Road Dogg is super over for reasons. for reasons.
Oh, he's got that awesome, like, it's he knew what his strengths were. You know, he knew he wasn't going to go out there and win people over with his matches, but he has this. He was in the right era, and he had the right sort of
shtick.
That whole callback with the crowd. Like, the crowd loves anything that they're involved with.
They do.
Like, even people nowadays who are like sick of Jericho, they still pop for Judas, you know, and they still jump up to sing along to Judas.
Yeah, the crowd interaction is like the key for wrestling for some reason. The crowd just loves being part of it, you know. But this match ends with Val Venus coming out and interrupting the match, and then we have a schmaz where Goldust comes out with the blue meanie, and just like, oh, you know, we're gonna have this whole thing, and then it sets up the match at WrestleMania. But cuts backstage, JR is there with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and he's going to come out and he's going to kill the Hardy Boys.
The Hardy Boys is amazing.
And this is because it's funny. We're about to, like, the more heat you watch, the Hardy show up again next week and stuff like that. But the even going back into 1998, I was watching a random heat from 1998 as well, and they got killed by someone else. And it's just like, oh, they were kind of just backstage. They were just jobbers. And it's funny because they're wearing like these terrible yellow things, and it's like, oh, they still haven't figured out who they actually are.
But you can see them starting to come through. So there's like two things I thought about this was one. So it was Dr. Death versus the Hardy Boys in a handicap match. One, it was actually a pretty decent match. Wasn't very long, and it was a squash, but it showed that they were maybe trying to rehabilitate Dr. Death a wee bit.
Yeah.
So
they were, they really were.
Yeah, like there was an effort there. So it was a good match, made Dr. Death look really strong. The other thing I liked about it was that it was really cool seeing the Hardys. You could see flashes of where they were going. Like they got battered here, but they got a lot of their stuff in. You know, they got a lot of their
double team
team moves and stuff that would become iconic later on. But it's also kind of cool just to sit and watch it. And like you're talking about, you know, like the kind of awkward gear that's almost, but not quite them yet. It's awesome to think, like, in a relatively short amount of time, like in a couple of months, they're going to go from this to one of the biggest tag teams ever. Yeah.
No, and it's funny because like, I don't know when it happens. There's a couple of, like, when you're watching this again, it happens with Too Sexy as well. I don't know if you know Too Cool or Too Sexy before, you know.
Yeah.
So there's that awkward thing that we're actually going to live through very, very soon. And it's actually as terrible as it sounds. But they randomly fall into Too Cool. The Hardys, it's a little bit more. There's a little bit more effort put into it. When the Brood breaks up, they become the New Brood. They start teaming with Michael P. Hayes.
Yeah.
And then they become the New Brood, and then the Old Brood and New Brood feud, and then they have the ladder match, and they're superstars. They have a
Brood feud.
No, but they have the ladder match at No Mercy in October, and they become the four of them become megastars.
Yeah, so that's it.
They're not there. They're not there yet, but we have a lot. We have a lot of like random, and I'm glad. That's why I'm so glad we're doing Heat, because there's no way we would see this otherwise, because they're just not getting on Raw. There's no way they're getting on Raw.
I'm really looking forward to that transition. I'm really looking forward.
We're going to see. But if you're playing along at home, I mean, when you're watching Heat, keep an eye out for like random backstage people, because you know we saw Christopher Daniels randomly backstage with the Hardys.
Oh yeah, it's kind of fascinating, particularly when you, like you say, you do know the history and you're looking back at it. It's kind of fascinating to see who's there, who's hanging about, even to see who's like doing, you know, those extras roles they just have, you know, bodyguard or something like that. It's always cool to see. You go, oh, holy hell, is that MJF or is that, you know?
Yeah, it's, you know, I think the knowing what happens and then seeing it unfolding is interesting, not only for the top stars, but for, like, as you said, guys who won't even make that impact yet, you know. From there, we have the Godfather coming out with the hose, and then it's a match against it's going to say Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Triple H wearing his DX gear still. Interesting thing about this is the match wasn't very long. It was like 2 minutes, finished with a pedigree. But the Godfather didn't often offer Triple H the hose, and he seemed really interested. He just attacked them.
You can see, and I don't know if he was meant to do this or not, but you can see Triple H full on trying to grab one of them, to pinch a cheek, and you can see her like hopping and moving out of the way really quickly.
But I mean, is this the only time that kind of happened? Because usually he makes the offer.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe they were meant to do something like that.
Again, guys, we don't condone any of this. This is the gimmick. Like, this is.
Oh, this is the gimmick. Yeah,
this is the gimmick.
But you do have to respect it, because at the same time, whether you're, don't find any moral issues or you're morally opposed to it, the fact is that pimping ain't easy.
It ain't easy. But yeah, I mean, that kind of took me off guard. The match itself was a very play by the numbers card. It wasn't a very good Triple H match. It wasn't a very good Godfather match. It just was a match. But it was a match. It had a definitive beginning, middle, and end.
And I love that. So the Godfather is one of those characters who's kind of in a perfect spot in WWF at the time, because you can beat him all day and it is not going to affect his popularity
at all.
No. So he gets beaten in this. Triple H gets to win a match. He rolls out of the ring. Godfather's laying on the mat, like after being pedigreed. And the next thing, his hoes come in and like pile on top of him, and they're all like hugging him and saying, "Is he all right?" And there's a big smile on his face, and you're just like, "Oh, he's over."
Well, he's talked about it himself. He's incredibly over. And what's weird about it is Triple H is giving them all crotch chops as they're coming in, and it's like, I still don't know why he wasn't, offered one. What did he do? They never said that they had beef or anything, because usually the Godfather would be like, "Look, I'd much rather just go home." And I'm just like, was there some kind of beef between these two or whatever? But either way, Godfather super over. Triple H gets the win, and then it's revealed that the Big Show's in the limo for some reason. I'm not feeling the Big Show at all. Like, genuinely, I mean,
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
He's so physically imposing, and they're making the effort, but it is just not coming across. Yeah,
no, it's just not working. I mean, I knew he shows up. He just, it's very.
Maybe he needed more of a monster gimmick. Maybe he needed a gimmick,
genuinely, rather than being, "I'm Paul White, I'm really big."
Maybe rather than having him walking around with the corporation, maybe he needed to be out there doing a couple of squash matches, absolutely murdering lads,
Because we haven't really seen him do that.
No, and in fact,
haven't seen him do that.
I think on the next Raw, I think that's his first actual match. So
you could be right. No, he had a match with what's the Raw match? The Raw match is he had a match with Mankind. Yeah. Wait, no, he didn't. I think you're right. Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. I think you're right.
So, I'm with you here. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm looking at him, and he's undoubtedly massive. Like, he's looking down on Kane.
Yeah.
And he's getting all the time in the world. Like, they're clearly putting the effort in with him. I just don't know what it is. It's just not clicking for me.
Yeah, if I figure out what it is, I'll let you know. But it just seems flat. I'm like, how can you make? And it's not because they're doing anything wrong with him. It's just he just doesn't seem interested. Is the wrong word, but doesn't really seem special. And when you can't use the fact that you're like 7 foot tall to, seem interesting, it's a problem. And you'll see, it's very. I'm interested to see where this goes over the year. We're only in the third month. And already it's So Big Boss Man comes out again, where he always should be, the main event. It is Heat, but still. So he comes out. He's going to have a match with The Rock, and already The Rock is going to absolutely decimate him, which he does. Shane is screaming at commentary, going, "No, what's going on? I mean, I don't like this. We should be coming together." Blah 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 blah. The Rock comes out. The people really want to cheer him. They don't. The Rock coming out again in his best look. The tracksuit bottoms thing. I mean, I don't know. I just think that suits The Rock a lot more than coming out in jocks, because it's just like, he's like, oh yeah, I don't need to change. I'm just gonna bat here and go back. It's just, I don't know. It just gives off more of like a heel.
It's a really good heel look.
It's a really good heel look.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd have it on babyface Rock, but it's a really good heel look.
It's just class, because it's just like, oh, he cares so little. He's like, right, I'm gonna wear this weird top and these tracksuit bottoms, and I'm gonna come out and win. And it's going to be decisive. Again, I was distracted the whole time because they must have knocked that wood chipping everywhere. It's everywhere by this point. I'm like, get a Hoover. You know, one of Henry Hoovers. Use one of those. You know,
yeah.
It's like, why did you not Hoover?
Send one of the guys out for 5 minutes.
Hoover and mop it and just make it look, because it's just very distracting, because it's like, this was obviously pre-taped weeks ago. You know,
I don't know what it is. There's a bizarre thing with wrestling sometimes where people make like really weird flubs, particularly in segments or backstage interviews and stuff, and they put them in the show, and I'm like lads, just do another go.
Yeah, it's like just fix it. I mean, I remember I was at a taping in, I think it was Liverpool, for SmackDown. And he actually went. No, it was Raw. It was a Raw, and the women had come out, and they were wearing the wrong jersey, and the whole crowd ate them alive. So they came back and did it again. And the crowd actually got it, you know, because they just were like, "No, we have to do this again." And I mean, I don't think that's a problem with a tape show, but like, they had time to fix this, and it's very off-putting when you notice it, because you can't help but notice
Caster,
it.
Actually, a couple of weeks ago, Max Caster of the Acclaimed, so he does a rap as he's coming down to the ring. You know, like whoever his opponent is that week, like he'll rip them a new one, and he's genuinely brilliant. He's very funny, but he flubbed it at a Rampage tape, and so it was Rampage, so it wasn't live. But he flubbed his line, and he basically just stopped, and he said, "Nah, let's do it again."
Yeah,
like thousands of people there, and he just went backstage and just did it again, and it looked great on the show. And the only reason you even knew about it was because people there recorded it with their phones. But even that, like, they put that up on their own social media and made like a joke out of it.
Yeah, but I don't even think that's a problem. Like, it's just like, if, like, obviously now AEW would be the only ones that would have to do it, and WWE doing it when they go overseas to the UK or something like that. But I mean, there was no real excuse for this. It's just, you know, maybe they just had to bang through it, or they only had a certain amount of time. But, you know, if you guys noticed it as well, I really noticed it, and I just couldn't help. But particularly because so much stuff happens outside, like over at the announce desk. And thanks, Hardcore Holly, because you actually drew attention to it. But yeah, so this match basically, it's a non-finish. The lights get knocked out, and the entire ministry basically come out and absolutely batter the big boss man. The Rock walks away, which is a super heel move, really. He's like, I don't need to be involved in this. And it's like, yeah, go and do the work for him. However, who isn't out there? The Undertaker. And The Rock sells The Undertaker like, oh, wow, this is... And that's kind of the power. Like, we haven't really seen The Undertaker do anything, really, since we've been, you know, in the ring.
His gimmick at this stage, or is he injured, or...
He wasn't injured, but this is his gimmick. He gets injured in 2000, and that's why he's pretty much gone for all of 2000. But he is carrying some injuries, but no, this is just his gimmick.
Or maybe he just doesn't want to be in the ring with Viscera, even if he's on the same team.
I mean, can you blame him, really? But yeah, so Heat goes off the air in a very bizarre way. Paul White is, you know, looking at Undertaker. Rock is in the middle. He's playing Piggy in the middle. And Undertaker's doing his eyes roll back thing. And then it goes off the air, and it's weird. it's so awkward, because it's like...
Yeah, but it's man, I thought this was such a great it was an hour, not even an hour, it's like 41
minutes.
It bangs along like at a flying pace. It's got this great, like you say, the story with The Rock, this kind of thread that runs the whole way through the episode, and then everything else, all the different matches and different feuds and different stories all kind of happen around it. I just think this is the format for an hour-long show.
I agree.
You know, this is
I absolutely agree.
You take a big issue and you make that the focal point of the whole show, and everything else happens around it. And what it does then is it gets rid of any kind of B show stigma, because no, this is actually real integral to the main stories that are happening. Like,
and I mean that's why we're doing Heat, you know, on the main show, because it's so important to everything else that without doing Heat now, we're missing a massive part of the story.
Exactly. So I think it's kind of indicative of this whole episode, of this whole era, in that, look, it didn't have the best matches in the world. It didn't have the best wrestling in the world. It didn't even have like the best segments or that in the world.
There was less than 6 minutes of wrestling in that entire show.
But when you put it all together, it's a great episode.
It is.
It's very much more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I mean, like, we are going to end the Patreon show here, because obviously we're just covering Heat on that. And we have another 15 minutes on the radio, and then we'll kind of continue into Raw. But that's it. I mean, we had to cover Heat, and we have to keep doing it until SmackDown shows up, and then it kind of takes a lot of the pressure off it, and that's when you start getting the dregs. I mean that in the best way. It's like stuff that doesn't matter, you know, it's kind of thrown on. But this 41 minutes of wrestling, it's so super tight. Now, the only one who wasn't on the show was Austin, but you had The Rock and The Undertaker. You know,
big names.
Big names. You know, it wasn't like, oh sure. And you know, we've seen Stone Cold there.
Storyline, like, this is all like the storyline around this is all to do with the world title. Like, this is the WrestleMania storyline that's being advanced here.
Absolutely. So we get to Raw. Raw is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, First Union Center, March 28th. It's that's WrestleMania. Raw comes from the Pepsi Arena in Albany, New York, March 15th, 1999. And it starts off with a Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon Rock segment. But before that, it's Austin walks by an ominous beer truck. And you're like, oh, this is going to be the segment. And it was. Really weird sign as Vince walks out. Hi, Rock, I know my role. That's just bizarre. I don't really know what they're trying to get at there, but okay.
But I like it. I like the creativity of the sounds back then. And I think the main thing I like about them is that it's not just a load of people advertising their own podcast.
I mean, there's some of that too. On Heat, there was like loads of people advertising something. I don't know what it was, but I'm assuming it was a podcast. Could have been something else. You know. Yeah, I don't know. The internet still existed, you know. Yeah, but look, the actual overall content of this promo to start off Raw was actually quite cool, because it's wrapped, because they're both champions. Shane and The Rock are champions, and Vince is like, look, you're both going to walk in as champions. You're going to best, you know, and then you're going to come out as champions. And I actually really liked it, because it was, you know, you could see Vince being proud of Shane, and also, like, you know, The Rock, you know, really is just properly heel Rock here. But the crowd still really like him, and it gets worse the more you go in, where he's like, you know, sing along with the champ. It's like, no, but people really want to do it. So it is kind of funny. On the next
really hot crowd as well.
Super hot crowd. They are like ready to go. And this kind of goes back and forward. Can I just say, I love the European Championship. It's a beautiful belt. Shame it was gone, but you know, it is what it is. I think it works quite well as a prop. Well, all belts are props, but I think this works really well as a prop, because it's like Shane is just like, look at what I won. Even though
it's great for certain storylines.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not the workers' belt, but I think for this it just adds so much. And I would say Shane McMahon's probably one of the greatest European champions of all time, which is hilarious, but I think it's true, genuinely. Okay, So what happens then is The Rock cuts a promo. Austin's watching backstage, and what's cool about it is they play it on the Titantron. So they actually play to Austin as watching it, and then they kind of call him out. Austin's music hit. Mankind's music hits, and Mankind again. Another storyline that we haven't talked about is the whole WrestleMania special referee thing. So Mankind comes out and he's like, "Look, I want to make sure everything here is kosher. Everything here is good." And it then sets up a match later on where The Rock needs to defeat Mankind. Basically the winner gets to be the guest referee for the actual main event, which is Austin and The Big Show. So that's kind of set.
Such a strange. Like, what do you make of this story for Mick Foley? Because he's really big. He's like absolutely super hot with the crowd. I don't know, kind of having him. I know he's more now into his kind of comedy goofy role at this stage, but I don't know. It just seems like kind of a waste of a big name.
I wouldn't say this is a waste. I would say at this point, I think it's convoluted. Yeah,
like he's really fighting to be the referee. I'm like, why?
No, I don't mind that so much. This specific part of Raw is when I fell off the storyline, because I'm like, right, you've already won a match like this 3 times. You're going to have a match at WrestleMania. And it's like, it's very convoluted. He's like, oh, I went to Shawn Michaels and I got this. And it's like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. That's a lie, and it's just like, it stretches the point of believability. If Shawn Michaels had come out himself and been or popped up on the Tron, fair enough. But the fact that Mick at some point went to San Antonio with a contract and then came back, I'm like, no, he didn't. It seems like, and I agree with you, it is a waste. And I think what happened here is they were writing Mick's segment week to week to week as like a thread. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Big Show is tied up there as well. So that's why it's the weakest of the WrestleMania big matches, and the Big Show's in the weakest of the Big Show, the big matches for WrestleMania. I think that's what it is, genuinely.
Yeah. Also, the fact that he had to go to San Antonio. It's like, I know it's 1999, but telephones and fax machines still exist.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, or it's a Titantron. Shawn Michaels has shown up on the Titantron before. They can do a satellite feed. You can, So, but this is all to build up for what they were actually trying to do out there. One of the biggest wrestling moments of all time. Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out on the beer truck, cuts a pretty good promo.
Drives not under, drives through the Titantron. The Titantron actually clips it and it lifts and moves as he's driving underneath it.
Which is cool. A lot of people say that the current Tron just screens is kind of lame. It's like, yeah, it is. Because it's not a physical thing. Physical sets are very important. I'm glad AEW do that, but like, this is why, because it gives you a lot more things to play with. And having that just image of Austin just driving down. Now, obviously, your man's in there with him and it's all kind of safe and stuff as well, but it's just like, it's still a cool image. And again, for video package, this is one what we're talking about. It was a cool moment as it was happening. When it happens in a video package, it's iconic.
Fantastic. I'll tell you what was great about it as well. Obviously it's very cool. Austin comes down to the ring in this massive truck and he does his promo, like you said, pretty good promo, and then whips out the hose and blasts the ring. But I think what really adds to it is how well it's sold. So like The Rock gets a blast and he's really annoyed, but he kind of gets out of the way because he still has to be, like a threat. Whereas McMahon is allowed to just goof it up and he lays in the ring like splashing around like he's trying to swim, and it's genuinely hilarious.
It is. It's very good. It's very, very good. And it sets up kind of the tone of the night. It's a big moment for WrestleMania. If you were watching this back in 1999, which we were, but we were like 8 and 10 respectively, probably. You're like, oh, I need to see this. But maybe as an adult, you're watching this, 20, 18, 20, whatever. And you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this, because this is a massive, massive moment and a really cool way to sell that, this is going to be one of the biggest matches of all time on one of the biggest shows of all time. It's a WrestleMania moment outside of WrestleMania, which again, we don't see. We don't. There's nothing. There's nothing happening at WrestleMania now, and we're a couple of weeks away from actual WrestleMania in 2023, and I genuinely couldn't care less.
It's one of those. I think maybe because we have, the network now, and in the US you don't even have the network now. You just have the Peacock app, and it's through that they're getting these huge numbers. Or like the last Royal Rumble was the most successful one ever. I don't think it's because it was this huge, insanely hot build. I think it's because it's already in all these homes.
Yeah.
It's $4.99 if you're on Peacock. Like, it's the type of thing you might as well just stick that on.
Yeah, sure, why not? It's only so much, but
exactly. But because they have that almost kind of built-in audience, they don't need to sell pay-per-views anymore. But this is how you sell a pay. This is someone sees that and goes, right, well, if that's what's happening on Raw, I need to get WrestleMania, because God only knows what they're going to do.
We are going to have to leave it there, but I will say one thing here. I'm looking at the card for WrestleMania, and we will obviously talk about it more as it goes on. April 1st is when WrestleMania is. 1st and 2nd, because it's a two-nighter. I can imagine the only thing that would have something similar to it is Edge versus Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell. Probably going to have to start watching just to kind of see if there is some kind of build on it. But everything you said there, man, is 100% right. Like, there's none of these big sell moments. It's already in those homes. So that's what they're getting. It's a captive audience, for want of a better word. But Martin, we are going to have to leave it there for the Phoenix FM listeners, guys. We'll be back next week to talk about WrestleMania 15, the granddaddy of them all from 1999, and we'll be back here on the True Penny channel, Nerd to Know Media, WrestlingRewind.com, and all the podcast outlets. Talk about the rest of Raw from March 22nd, 1999. So we'll be back after this show.
What was the next Pac Euro?
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Alright folks, and we're back here on Nerd to Know Media, the True Penny channel, all the podcast places. Give us an X-Pac Euro, guys. Come on. We need it. It's on the Patreon. The links are over on the WrestlingRewind.com. There are different tiers, and that will really be appreciated, because we discovered that at the beginning of X-Pac's team, he's not saying X-Pac, he's saying make some noise, which I still can't believe, Martin.
And I think it's a wonderful bit of trivia that's worth €1.
I think it is at least €1. But we also put up our Bookily list as well. So if you have Bookily that you think we need to kind of give some praise to or give our thoughts on, let us know, because everyone knows that Big Boss Man is top of my list. Martin, who's top of your list? Actually, from this era.
From this era is a strange one. So prior to this would have been probably Doink, and then after it would probably be Jake Hager.
Right.
But my favourite, do you know who? Al Snow.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. I want to put Billy Gunn there, but he's in DX, so he can't. Or even Road Dogg. Like, Road Dogg's gone in there. Road Dogg's a Bookily as well. He is. Even though he's
Yeah, it's hard to say, like you say, because he was like genuinely over as tag team champions, So it's.
I know, but I mean, he's such a boy, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Just even though he had a world title shot, which again is the most bizarre thing that's probably ever happened in wrestling. That's saying something. But I mean, like, he
was 100% just the cat that fell in the cream. He just was the right place, the right time with the right gimmick.
And he was in DX as well. So I mean, it is kind of hard to put anyone from DX as a Buckley. But then again, the boss man was in the corporation, and the corporation in and of itself has a lot of Buckley as well. Midian could be there too, but we haven't really seen that much of Midian yet. Even at this point, look, if things had gone bad for Paul White would nearly, be on the unemployment line rather than anywhere near a Buckley list, because terrible.
I'd stick Viscera in my Buckley list for the same reason as The Undertaker wanted him in his team. I'd rather have him on my side so I don't have to face him.
Oh man, I mean, getting a splash from Viscera probably would be the least fun thing ever. But picking up where we left off here after the beer bash kind of thing, Vince is obviously upset, and it cuts backstage to Deborah fixing herself, getting ready to come out, because we're going to have more of the Deborah, Ivory Sable generic women feud.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
It gets really terrible. So, that is coming. But before that, we have Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart defending the WWF Tag Team Championships against the Brood, Edge, and Gangrel. However, they play by Freebird rules, which they don't actually talk about on commentary. They just say, "What's going on? Why isn't the ref seeing it?" So Christian actually takes part in this match as well, which, okay, I didn't realize you could do that, but you can. It's a losing effort from the Brood, and
is that what happened here? It was the Freebird rules. It wasn't that. Right, I got slightly confused here then, because
go on.
Obviously Edge and Christian were jumping in and jumping out.
Yeah.
And I was like, but they're not even wearing like the same clothes. How is the referee being tricked by this?
This is exactly where I was coming from as well. I'm like, okay, Gangrel has to stay in the match. Sorry, Gangrel and Christian could swap out, but Edge and Christian can't swap out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, because that would have made sense, because they kind of look at, like, not really, but kind of, because they're wearing the same gear. I don't think it was the Freebirds rule. They just did it.
Right. Yeah, because I was thinking, so Edge is wearing like the black trousers, and Christian's wearing, I think, purple trousers and a white shirt. And I'm like, oh lads, if he's gonna do this roll in, roll out gimmick, at least come down to the ring wearing the same
exactly.
The same clothes.
Yeah, I mean, like, because Edge kind of wears his own stuff. Gangrel and Christian kind of wear the same stuff. But I mean, at one point, who is it? It's Timmy. Is that Tim White? Yeah, Tim White's the referee. He's a terrible referee. I mean, like, it happens in front of him, and he's like, "Yeah, it's fine." So it's like, no, ridiculous. Another story that's going parallel to this is JR at a frat party with Dr. Death Steve Williams.
Yes, I think this was stolen from Nitro. So it's around this time Nitro was doing the show us your Nitro party gimmick, where they'd have people send in video footage of, and it was mostly frat houses of them all getting ready for a big party to all sit around and watch Nitro. And I think WWF saw that and thought, that's a good idea. I'll have some of that.
There's a part in the match actually that's pretty funny, where Tim White is given out to Gangrel and Christian. He's giving out Gangrel and Christian. Giving out to Edge while Gangrel and Christian are in the match.
Yeah, exactly. So
and then they swap back to Edge and Gangrel in the match, and at no point is the ref like, "Oh, this is grand." And this is where this is what I'm saying to you, where wrestling comes second and the story comes first. Because obviously the story here was the persecution of Public Enemy. Because basically this match meant nothing until Public Enemy ran out. So I think the ref was just told, look, just keep the match going until we send out the two jobbers so they can get killed by everybody in the ring.
You were right last week, by the way. We had a bit of a discussion about whether or not so Public Enemy were in a match last week, and there's a very visible chair shot happens right in front of the referee, and we were like, oh, was the referee just stupid? Was that he was supposed to be looking the other way? Was that a botch, or is this the gimmick that everybody hates Public Enemy so much, even the referees are in it?
Yeah,
that was your understanding of it.
yeah,
And during the segment here, they actually do say that even the referees hate Public Enemy.
It has to be a consistent thing because the entire company is against them, with the exception of the commentators. They're the only ones who are like, Public Enemy, poor Public Enemy, And I think this is Michael Cole because he's like, he needs to be somewhat objective. But what happens then is the lights cut out. The Brood music plays. A weird rendition of the Brood music. I actually really liked it. I thought it was quite cool. And there's a bloodbath on Deborah. So that's it. The match is thrown out.
Really, sometimes these bloodbaths happen. Stuff drops and it kind of just misses people or just splashes on people. But it fully hits Deborah, and it reminded me of that scene from Carrie.
Yeah. No, and the whole setup as well of her checking herself before she left as well, really it was really effective. It's unfortunate though because the Brood could have won that match. They should have had their what together because if you're going to do the Freebird rule, establish it. But it was still a cool little segment. We then cut backstage to the New Age Outlaws talking about the match they're going to have against each other. Some lad interviewing them who, I think in the history of WWE backstage interviewers, he might be the strangest looking one. He looks like a German exchange student who was just showing up. Or even the guy, the hacker from, what's that movie called? From Swordfish, who gets arrested at the beginning of the movie. That's who he looks like with the weird little glasses. And I'm like, you didn't have anyone else, just this random guy. But yeah, and WWE have gone back to that. I'm just using random people, including that Irish guy who always seems to just show up from time to time. But anyway, that's a tangent. Huh?
Kevin Patrick. I think they've actually moved him now. I think he's a full-time commentator.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Good man, Kevin.
Didn't know WWE had a hotel in Las Vegas back in 1999, but they did. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, Shane McMahon's wearing the t-shirt, which is funny. Our next match is a doozy. Look, I feel bad. Sorry, the next match is Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The next match is actually quite an interesting match. Billy Gunn, Hardcore Champion, Road Dogg, Intercontinental Champion, ends in a no contest. This is quite good because, except for the, you didn't know happening back to back. And Road Dogg seems to get over a bit more with it because he's obviously doing the VO, Yeah. But the match is quite good. The story that they're telling is that, look, they're able to beat each other because they're best friends, they're tag team partners. And then all of a sudden we get shenanigans. And the shenanigans is comprehensive. It's the Blue Meanie showing up, which is cack. But with the rest of the lads, and Blue Meanie actually gets a bigger role this week than normal. But the Outlaws make short work of everybody. Al Snow, Val Venus, and Goldust. So ends in a no contest. And yeah, it is what it is. It cuts backstage then to sorry.
I accept that this era is, like you say, is not about the wrestling. It's not necessarily about the wins and losses. But I was a little disappointed in this one. I thought there was whenever Billy Gunn won the hardcore title, I thought it was beneath him, but I was like, let it play out. Maybe there'll be something come of it. And I was kind of into this when it was happening, tag team going out to fight each other, but trying to keep it, at the very least civil. And then, there'd be, you could have all sorts of interesting dynamics from that afterwards. If one of them loses and they stay together as a tag team, but, maybe now feels like he's the inferior version. I just thought there was a lot of interesting stuff they could do with it.
Yeah, but
I was a little disappointed to see it end in another no contest.
See, you're looking at it from the wrong way. I mean, I agree with you. I really do. And the way they established it. That's the story they wanted to tell. But really, the story they wanted to tell was, we need to put bodies in the ring.
Yeah.
Just go for it. And that's unfortunate. I mean, again, the Road Dogg should be a hardcore champion, and Billy Gunn should be the IC champion. It's an ill fit, but they've walked themselves into this storyline around the Blue Meanie and Ryan Shamrock and Goldust. That is the next segment. As I said, it's weird. I didn't even know. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know the Blue Meanie had music.
This next segment is
a doozy.
Kind of tremendous.
Yeah, it's a doozy. It really is. We quickly get a backstage segment where the Legion of Doom destroy Pat Patterson and Briscoe, because obviously last week they dressed up as the Legion of Doom. So the Legion of Doom are back, everybody. Yay.
It was a very understated way to bring them back, wasn't it? Like,
it was, yeah. It was.
Like, have them do that, but have them do it in their gear, in the ring, with like their entrance. Like, have Briscoe and Patterson out in the ring doing their shtick, and then the Legion of Doom entrance music plays and they come out and they batter them. And, I don't know. It just seemed a very muted way to bring...
You know what it seemed like? It seemed like, remember that kendo stick match that happened?
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, because to be honest, because of the way they attacked Briscoe and Patterson, you really only saw the backs of them as well. So they weren't even like immediately identifiable as Hawk and Animal.
Still, yeah, they weren't wearing the gear. I mean, like, they're just two lads then. I mean, yeah. What's the point? They weren't even wearing, their own T-shirt, which I mean is not ideal either. But at least, let them know who you are. It's silly. But okay, onto the segment. So Blue Meanie walks out. He's wearing his homemade shirt, which is disturbing, but fair enough. It's such a weird overall package. The Blue Meanie, and it is kind of genius though as well. Like, I mean, it's such a weird segment and idea. So he's wearing a shirt. I do appreciate the overall presentation. I mean, I think this is the most, like, this is Raw, and Blue Meanie's out there cutting a promo with music. Again, my mind is blown that he has music. I'm like, whoa, he went through trouble of doing a Titantron for him. Did make his own T-shirt, which, I mean, they probably could have sold a bit of it. And he's out there and he calls out Shamrock. It was very important to say Shamrock. He has a chair and everything with him. And he says he wants to spank Shamrock, right? You're like, whoa, he's going to call out Ken Shamrock. And he had me going for a moment as well. I'm like, he's going to get killed. Ken Shamrock's going to come out.
I was actually looking forward to that. I was going to Shamrock's going to go out and kill him.
Yeah, I was like, this is going to be unbelievable. It's Ryan Shamrock using his music. So Ryan Shamrock comes out and yeah, he says he's going to spank Ryan Shamrock. Now, what's weird about it is she walks over to him and he actually grabs her and starts, getting ready to spank.
I don't know if it was a case of, I don't know if the story is that maybe she's into it a wee bit, or when someone's going for a suplex and they stick their own arm up,
Yeah, I think it's the second. I think it's the second one, to be honest.
Yeah, but she definitely didn't look like she was putting up any kind of a major fight.
Yeah. It was very silly. So he grabs her and gets ready to deliver the smack, and Ken Shamrock comes out, kills the Blue Meanie. Goldust comes out, gets the ankle lock on him, and then the Blue Meanie wellies Ken with a chair shot to the head.
Oh, absolutely
wellies him with it.
I think that might be a Ken Shamrock thing. So apparently, do you know that real famous headshot that The Rock gives him, where he like pancakes him in the face with it?
Yeah.
Apparently, before they went out there, he told The Rock, "If you do not hit me with that thing, I'm not going to sell it. So like, you better swing it." And I imagine that the Blue Meanie, he said the same thing to him here, because I can't imagine that the Blue Meanie went out there and just decided to stiff Ken Shamrock with a chair shot out of the blue.
I think you're right. I think it's kind of a Ken Shamrock thing where he's like, no, make this look real. And it was, because it probably was. But it's interesting because the story of this shows that the three of them were in cahoots together, because Goldust wanted to weaken Ken Shamrock before the match. So it actually is a really, really it's weird as all hell, right? It's a weird segment, but it also shows that Goldust's whole thing is to mess with the opponents so he wins. And you're like, man, that's exactly what he's supposed to do. He's in the head of pretty much everybody because he's in Ken Shamrock's head entirely. He's in Ryan Shamrock also entirely. And stuff.
He's definitely in Ryan Shamrock.
Yeah. And you're just like, wow, okay. So, I mean, he has the mind games here are like serious. And then it shows that, the Blue Meanie might look ridiculous, but he's a dangerous animal.
He's got a role to play in all this.
Yeah, it's very good. And that chair shot made him look legit as all hell. Like, and then Kenny runs after him and he looks weak as all hell in this, which is sad because I love Ken Shamrock. I think he's great, but this unfortunately was not his night. Oh my god, hold on, I just realized something. I think that's Joey Styles at the frat party.
Really?
I think so. It looks just like him.
Oh, that's awesome.
It could be. It looks just like him. 1999.
When did he start with ECW?
Oh, like 96, 97.
God, he'd hardly be.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think it is, but it really, whatever way I just stopped the video there, it looks just like him. So they cut back to the frat party. And a lot of these guys, a lot of these guys probably aren't actually in a frat party. They're probably independent wrestlers. That's why I thought, like anytime sorry guys, whenever you have wrestlers at places, they're usually independent wrestlers who are there, guys who want a quick payday, because usually there's wrestling involved and you have to be able to take them. We get a random flash of the Cleavage household. Now, do you know what this is referring to?
I have it down in my notes here to ask it because I was absolutely baffled by what this was. Oh. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, what happens is that as we move from this segment into the next segment, there's a period, and it's not like a quick thing. It's up on screen for maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's a sustained cut.
Of just a picture of this house with a post box outside it, and on the post box is written Cleavage. And nobody's saying anything. Nobody's explaining it. I was kind of baffled by that.
Okay. I can do one of two things. I can either tell you exactly what it is, or you can wait.
But do you know what? If it's something that's going to be paid off, let's wait and let's see if I could, if my guess as to what it was going to be was even remotely close.
Oh, well, okay. I'll just say it's hinting at a wrestler we're going to see very soon. We've already seen the wrestler. It's Mosh's repackaging.
Oh, okay. So I remember Mosh's repackaging.
Yeah, it's so bad it's on WrestleCrap, and we're going to see it. Let's see. I don't know when it drops in, but it's going to be very, very soon.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, so it is a weird one. The character is called Beaver Cleavage. That's the character. And that's all.
Very long because
that's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to get into any more of it because we're actually going to have to cover it in real life, and I don't think we're going to be able to cover it on the radio. But no, it is a reference to the re-debuting Mosh known as Beaver Cleavage, and that's all we're saying. You can look it up if you want to, or you can wait and watch it with us as it's unfolding week to week. So that's what it is. Payoff, I didn't want to lead you astray, Martin, because it doesn't pay off. It just gets worse. And then we have Midian.
We go from cleavage to cleavage.
So we have Midian and Viscera walking out with the ministry. Shane McMahon is getting ready for his match, and then it goes to another doozy of a segment. Sable's out. Yay. Sable defeats Ivory in 2 minutes with Dino.
Sable not carrying a copy of Playboy with her for what feels like the first time in about 6 years.
But she cuts one of the worst promos I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, it's dreadful.
She is... Look, 1999 was probably a different time. It absolutely was a different time. I don't see the appeal of Sable. Obviously, Brock Lesnar disagrees with me. Fair. I'm not gonna, you know. But I mean, I don't see the appeal as a wrestler or as this goddess who she's been portrayed to be. I mean, Ivory seems way cooler. Give the belt to Ivory. She seems way more interesting. And actually,
Ivory's problem was that she could wrestle in an era when, like, they didn't really care about women who could wrestle. Like,
look, even Jacqueline and Terry Reynolds walk out. Both of them are cooler than Sable. Sable just doesn't seem cool. She seems kind of, I don't know, kind of lame. Am I off base here, or do you get?
No. I think like we all like you're dancing around because you're a gentleman. Like, big tits is what it is. That's fair. That's what it was.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, like, it's just, I don't know, man. I mean, just putting her out there, and I don't know. I mean, you're right. It's just there's 3 women out there who are so much more talented. Sable, and and it's just that the match is just god awful. It's not the worst women's match of all time. Obviously, TNA still hold that honor, but yeah, But
I mean, like everything is botched in it, and I mean, I'm not even talking about the move. Like the moves are botched, but even just like running the ropes and then drop down and a step over, even that's botched.
So the finish is a Miro bomb or a Sable bomb, and it looks hack.
Yeah,
she can't. She has to bring her up twice, and even then just drops her like a sack of potatoes.
2 or 3 times that they got the timing off with the jump and the lift wrong.
Yeah.
But look, yeah, she hits the bomb and it's over. I'd say this is maybe 2 minutes long, is it?
Yeah. 2 minutes.
It reminded me of there's a quote from Black Books. I don't know if anyone of our American listeners maybe haven't heard of it, but it's, for my money, it's the best sitcom that's ever been made. Where this guy goes into the main character, Bernard Black. He owns a bookshop, and this guy goes into his bookshop and he buys this book, and Bernard takes the money for it and he goes, "Enjoy. It's dreadful, but it's quite short." And that's what I got from this match. It was dreadful, but it was quite short. So
that's fair. And I will say the Sable's tenure with WWE is starting to run out now, so we won't see her for very much longer in WWE. And you will see Sable, Ivory, and the rest of the women who genuinely deserve it. So, as a terrible, quite short. I like that. I'm going to steal that one. We then have the first co-main event of the night. Mankind defeats The Rock by DQ, and a winner gets to be. So this is what the match is actually called. Winner gets to be the referee for the main event match.
I'll tell you what.
That's what it's called.
As someone who did a lot of refereeing, like, you get surprisingly exhausted even just being a referee. So if nothing else, like, I know we maybe don't think this particular storyline with Mankind is great. If nothing else, having a wrestling match and then going to being a referee, that's a good bit of stamina.
That's a tough night, This is a long enough match. This is like 7 minutes. And the thing of it is, what I like about it is it's a callback to what they've done before. These 2 men have been in wars with each other. Pretty much the whole start of the year. It's starting off pretty much, well, even before that, Rock Bottom and stuff like that in December, and the Deadly Games before. This is like a 4-month feud basically, and this is kind of not the blow off for it, but getting there. And it's not a bad match. It's by no means the best match that they've ever had, but it's a very enjoyable match. The ending of it,
I liked it. I thought this was a decent match.
I just want to say though, before you jump in, the ending of it sucks. With the Big Show costing, like, he does a choke slam in front of the referee, and it's like, what?
Yeah,
you cost your own guy the match. So that's what I wanted to say. Go on, Martin. Sorry for interrupting.
No, I completely agree with you. It's like it was a decent match, definitely by Raw standards. Like, this isn't the era of real long sort of critically acclaimed matches on Raw. I thought this was decent. The ending, yes, spoiled it a bit, but it was somewhat saved by the fact that I think Mick Foley takes the best chokeslam in all of wrestling. He's this big guy, I don't know if it's like a fearlessness thing or what, but he gets up for the chokeslam like nobody else. Legs swung up in the air and takes it completely on his back. I love watching Mick get chokeslammed.
Yeah, no, he takes it better than pretty much anyone else. And I mean, I think again, this is established in the Big Show. Right now, the Big Show's main thing is I can do a chokeslam and I'm tall. But Mick gets some revenge with a chair, and he's like, he stands his ground. He's like, no, I'm not going to be beaten up or battered again, because I mean, we've seen what The Rock can do with a chair. So it's funny. Mick was like, yeah, I'm not doing this again. I'm getting the chair. Then we have Shane McMahon and X-Pac in an Albany street fight, Greenwich street fight. Now, they hyped this up for a long period of time and said, right, what this is going to be. But there, just before we get to that, there is a non-match. It's actually not in this recap that I'm reading. It's actually only on the show. So they're hyping up the Albany street fight. We'll get to that. But before we do, it's a match. Kane versus Goldust.
I'm surprised that this isn't in the recap.
It's not in the recap.
This is fantastic.
What's interesting about it is the recap that I'm reading, it only counts as the matches. So obviously this doesn't count the match, right? So it's Kane doing his full entrance and then Goldust doing his full entrance. However, Goldust pulls out a big flamethrower and fires at Kane, because it's not Goldust, it's Triple H dressed as Goldust.
He was, do you know what? Triple H had me right up until the edge of the entrance. So he comes out in front of the Titantron and he's walking down, and is that Goldust? Is that, I don't know, it's hard to tell. And he gets the whole way down the ramp, and I'm still with it. And just before
it's the facial expressions. It's the facial expressions, yeah.
It's not even that what give it away for me anyway. Just before he gets in the ring, he turns to climb the steps, and you get the side profile, and you see that giant Triple H hunker of a nose, and then you're like, oh, that's not Goldust.
No, I mean, what I'm saying in a good way, the facial expressions really sold it.
Oh yeah,
he really sold it.
He really, like, it was really good. A really good impression of Goldust. But yeah, for me, it was when he got down to the corner and he turned and he saw his profile. They were like, I could recognize that big Hunter Hearst hunker anywhere.
The question I have is, where did he get the big coat from?
Yeah,
he would have had to get that specially made,
unless he stole it, maybe, or beat him up backstage, or I don't know. It was a good segment though, but yeah, it doesn't count as anything in the recap. It's just one of those moments. But again, so years ago watching or even like I still have WrestleMania 15 on VHS, and that would be shown, but it wasn't anywhere. So that's what's cool about this. It's here. They're building up for something. They have this random match, and then they go back to the street fight, which again is another angle. This is an angle inside of an angle. And they learned from from Kane's little flamethrower.
Yes.
This is a much more impressive blast. I suppose maybe you can do that with Kane because he's
covered up.
Most of his body is covered. But yeah, this is a cool surprise. The fireball looks awesome. Like, makes sense in the story. I thought this was a great segment.
And we have one final segment again. They're building up to the street fight, which is, because again, it's a Shane challenged X-Pac. So they're building up to that. And then we have an impromptu cut back to the frat party. Again, frat party is probably, beside the studio. Bob Holly shows up and he's like, you cost me my match with your table. And then starts attacking Dr. Death. So this directly ties to what happened on Heat, where he spent the entire time moaning about the table that was set up. And Bob Hardy actually gets not busted open, but he is cut hard way in the side of the head, because they're fighting in what is an actual kitchen. And then finally we get the Greenwich street fight.
So just before we get on to the street fight, I thought this was great, had great potential. The the two of them destroying like a flimsy student house, I think could have been amazing. It just kind of fell short. They didn't do quite enough. And this phony static that kept coming in and out.
That looked terrible.
Yeah,
that looked
really
terrible. Yeah.
took me out of it. So I thought this was a great idea and unusually for the time, because like we've been talking about how inventive they are during this period and how they're doing much more with a lot less. I just thought that this was a good idea, but just not very well executed.
You know, I think it was, as you said, overproduction. The static was overproduction. And what they could have done is they could have just actually had a proper feed and just jiggled it out a little bit and just recorded that, and it would have done a little bit better. But
or just have the end of it be one of the lads gets thrown into the cameraman and it's
and then that's it. Like, it's just, I don't think they thought this through, or maybe overthought it, which is the case. So Shane comes out. He's wearing his own DX jersey, which is good crack. X-Pac walks out wearing the Road Dogg shirt, which is still weird to see. Again, we talked about this last week, where wearing someone else's merch is bizarre.
I just didn't understand it.
And X-Pac, Shane throws a wild haymaker, and X-Pac delivers a spinning heel kick, knocks him to the ground, and the Mean Street Posse with an extra member, because the Mean Street Posse usually just have, Pete Gas, Joey Abs, and Rodney, but there's another lad there who I think he's something green. They mentioned him on Heat, but yeah, he's some random lad, and they batter poor X-Pac.
Yeah.
And they get up and Shane, they drive away, and Shane is outside up on the sunroof going, yeah, whatever. And then we have Undertaker just staring into the camera.
Which
caught me off guard. It genuinely caught me off guard.
This again was another thing that I just thought a slight tweak. I had no issue with the promo itself, but it's the fact that he was delivering it directly down the camera. All I could think was that the Lord of Darkness was stood there, with some camera guy behind it going, okay, we're live in 3, 2, and fire away whenever you. It's just
weird. But again, that's, we've talked about this. These random, and I know it sounds like it's disjointed, guys. It's not. If you're not watching the show, this is how it's done. Recaps don't. I mean, imagine recapping this. Well, you probably weren't recapping it on the internet the way you would now. That'd be a nightmare. What happened? Go back. Even trying to go through it, you're going through it bit by bit by bit, because so much happens in just a short space of time.
We go from here. We go from Kane and Goldust. Turns out to be not Goldust. Whips out a flamethrower, shoots Kane in the face. Hardcore Dr. Death, battering each other at a house party, smashing around. Camera cuts off into a street fight with Shane McMahon and X-Pac. Actually, a pretty cool kick and a rough bump from Shane.
It was a good kick, yeah.
Into the Undertaker. That happens in the space of about
4 minutes.
7 minutes?
4 to 7 minutes, yeah, 4 to 7 minutes. And then that goes in, into a wild, unpredictable, no contest six man tag team match. There's no tag in here. It goes straight to the outside. The Corporation and the Ministry of Darkness batter each other around the ring, use weapons immediately, and it gets thrown out, and then we go straight into an ad to WrestleMania.
There's one great spot in this where Boss Man hits the Undertaker, was it, with the
nightstick?
With the nightstick, and he goes down.
Yeah, that's good spot.
And then Undertaker does, the cool setup that he does. But Boss Man lines up to hit him again, and whatever happens, someone in the background is throwing a beach ball around.
Yeah.
And it's the weirdest angle, but I swear to God, it looks like the Boss Man is teeing up with his nightstick and he just bops the beach ball like the other side of the arena.
I'm kind of glad they got rid of beach balls. That's I draw the line at beach balls being thrown around, because it's signs are one thing, but beach balls are another.
It's where you stop becoming a part of the show and you start taking away from it. Yeah,
absolutely. But speaking of signs, and that's what we call a segue. So we have our own little chat that we kind of, obviously talks it through, and we see signs, we kind of laugh at them. And we saw this random one a couple of weeks ago, Martin, where it was Vince. It's a yellow sign and says Vince McMahon is gay and also loves to bang little chickens. And we're like, that's such a weird sign. Oh, I love it. It's gas.
This same one also had another sign that was just in a different part of the arena from that one. But again, a very simple cardboard sign someone holding up just said, "Vince, you silly bastard."
But as I was watching this one, I was like, oh my God, this is where the sign comes from. Because, Vince is walking out shirtless, but still wearing his suit top. And I'm like, wait, this looks familiar. And then when I saw that, I was like, yes. So mark tape, March 22nd, 1999, 1 hour, 15 minutes, 14 seconds. That's where you can see this wonderful sign, which when we do our book, ladies and gentlemen, that will be given pride of place, because it's such a bizarre, crazy sign that makes no sense.
And it's mad. It's one of those iconic moments, but not one you see in a lot of video packages.
No, unless it's a South Park reference to the chicken lover.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, South Park was
really big at this point.
Big South Park, yeah.
So I mean, maybe, but that's the only thing I can think about for this, because I don't think there's any actual reason for it,
But you know what? A sign like that, it's even better when there's no reason for it.
That's true. So Vince comes out and cuts a promo, and basically it's like, look, The Rock's going to win this match. The Rock's going to come out, do commentary. Paul White's going to win this match, and then basically overcome Mick Foley. So look, the match itself, you made a very good point that this is Paul White's first WWE match. It is the longest match that we've actually seen on Raw. It's about 10 minutes long, and it's a very good match. Stone Cold Steve Austin, can get the didn't really need to wrestle at this point. Actually, none of the main stars really need to wrestle at this point, but I think Paul White did. And maybe going in with Austin, they're like, no, we're actually going to do a long match here and actually tell some kind of story. Austin does defeat Paul White, and Mick's a great referee, actually. It does a lot to actually set up WrestleMania as well and get Austin over, but also damages Paul White quite severely. At the end of this, I mean,
I actually thought the opposite. I thought that, Austin won, but I mean, Austin's the biggest star in the world at this stage.
Yeah.
But the fact that he had to put him down with 3 unprotected headshots.
4. It's 4. I just double checked. 4, yeah. It's 4 and then the stunner.
And then a stunner. I thought, I definitely wouldn't call it a burial, I thought.
No, that's not where I'm getting at. What I'm saying is, I mean, when Paul White came in, he should have been fed a bunch of guys. And
Absolutely.
And to make him a star, like, all that happened here was he was an obstacle for Austin to overcome, a big obstacle, one that you need to give brain damage to beat. But at the same time, I think that's a bad use of the Big Show, because he never recovers from this angle. He goes against Mick at WrestleMania, who beats him. Spoilers alert. And then he keeps going in. It's not until later on in the year when he actually starts winning. And that's kind of the problem I have with it. Not so much that it happened. It's like, it never should have happened. The Big Show should have been a massive star way earlier on. It's not until, maybe 2007, 2008 that he actually becomes a big star in WWE, which is crazy. Yeah.
And again, it's like you say, it's not for lack of trying. He was brought in, he was given a lot of time, he was put into a main event angle, but like you say, I think it's the fact that it's taken this long to actually get him in the ring for a match that he should have come in and not only been fed a bunch of guys to murder, but he should have come in and had like a real shock victory against someone huge. Like, he should have come in and smashed like Kane or The Undertaker or someone, like a real shock.
I think that would have been actually a better use of him. But look, it was the cards that he had at the time, and it was what it was. The show goes off the air with The Rock getting in off commentary and beats up Stone Cold, and we go off the air with Austin. With Austin on the ground,
and the crowd absolutely losing it.
Yeah, no. So basically, The Rock is standing up victorious, crowd's losing it, and Vince is shouting his head off, and that's how we end Raw, and then it goes into Heat, which is the same day as WrestleMania. Obviously, it's from the arena. It looks great. Unfortunately, we're not going to put that in our timeline because literally nothing happens. It's just promos, with the exception of a terrible Jacqueline Ivory match, which Jacqueline wins, and then an invitational battle royale where D'Lo and Test win to basically be able to challenge for the tag belts at WrestleMania. That's what happens. Watch it anyway before WrestleMania, but we're now at WrestleMania 15. That's going to be our show next week. Martin, what have you thought about the build up to WrestleMania so far, and are you looking forward to shows? What matches are you looking forward to seeing?
Oh, yeah. So, like, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, there was maybe one or two episodes where I thought they were kind of just spinning tires. There wasn't much happening, but it's all kicking off now. Like, this is, if I'm watching this at the time, I am bouncing off the walls waiting for WrestleMania. And, well, it's a testament to how good the build has been that I know this is a terrible WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Still can't wait to see it.
I mean, you know, as I said, I've kind of jumped ahead a little bit and I started watching it. I didn't watch all of it. I'm going to probably watch I want to watch it tonight, to be honest with you. It is a terrible WrestleMania, but it has moments that's quite good. I mean, there are, like, I've seen this WrestleMania probably 8 times in different ways. And the Kane Triple H match now, I'm actually way more interested in than I probably ever was, because I now know the full story week to week to week. The hardcore match is quite good. You can pick the matches out that are bad, and we've already covered one, the Brawl for All Revenge beating by Butterbean to Bart Gunn, which if you guys haven't checked out our special Christmas show, our New Year's Eve show, wasn't it? New Year's Eve with James Truepenny. That's on the feed. Go check that out. And look, we'll be back next week to break down a rather disappointing WrestleMania, but has moments. And I'm interested, Martin, for you to watch this, because I'm going to rewatch it again with a clean slate to see if what I liked still holds up and maybe what doesn't. I already know some of it isn't going to hold up, but a lot of it probably will. And some of it I might actually appreciate a lot more. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Martin, before we get out here, is there anything you want to plug?
No, I'm just I'm kind of excited for the next few weeks. I like that we've lined up, WrestleMania 15 with, WrestleMania that's coming up. So with your Austin interview, and then this episode, and then we'll be doing Mania, and then we'll be into 2023 Mania. So I think it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for comparing and contrasting. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of those shows as well where, I'm glad we did this. It just kind of lined up. So next week we have WrestleMania 15. The week after is the week of WrestleMania, so we'll probably do something else at that point, probably outside of the timeline. I might just find something fun. Or guys, if you're listening and you want us to review something, let us know something outside of the timeline. We'll probably cover that then, or we might even do a WrestleMania something WrestleMania. I'll have a think about it. And then the week after will be WrestleMania 2023. So that's the next couple of weeks for us, folks. Thank you so much. If you haven't, please spread the word of the podcast, spread the word of the show. Follow us on social media as well. You can email us, and if you want to help support the show, go over to the Patreon, give us some X-Pac euros, give us a list of your bookly, and that will help us a great deal. So from Martin, from myself, from Dave, who will probably be back for WrestleMania, like actual WrestleMania, not 15, this has been The Wrestling Rewind. We will see you next week to talk about WrestleMania 15 from 1999. Bye, guys.
Keep our let.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.